welcome back, buddy. In the previous videos, we have learned about organization by default and grant access using role hierarchies. In this video, we are going to learn about the sharing rules, which is the third level in record level security. So we can just directly take up a use case to learn this particular topic. Let's say case records are owned by users with role professor should be accessible by users with role admin manager. Now, how can we achieve this? Can we achieve using OWD? Let's say you're keeping the OWD as public read. Admin manager users will gain access, but not only this particular group of users, every user in the org will be gaining the access for the case record, which we doesn't need. So basically, we'll be keeping the OWD to private. But let's think, can we grant access using role? The answer is no, because these both users are in different branches. So we can't grant access using roles as well. Now the third option which is available is sharing rules. Now to configure the sharing rule, we have to come back to the same place, which is sharing setting. So here is the place we configured the OWD as well as grant access using hierarchies, right? So just scroll down to the bottom, you'll be seeing the rules for each and every object. So our object is case, right? Let me just search for case, and yes, here you are seeing case sharing rules. So we have to create one new rule. Let me just create one and give the reasonable name. For example, in our use case, we are going to give access to admin manager, right? So let me just give it like admin manager sharing. Okay. And this is where we have to concentrate. So basically, there are three major types of rule type, which is based on record owner, based on criteria, guest user access based on criteria. So in this video, we are going to concentrate only on this two particular option, because if I'm touching this particular option, again I have to touch other topics like experience cloud, experience site and all. I don't want to do this in this particular video. We can cover it in different videos if needed. Okay, so as per our use case, we have to select this particular option based on record owner. I'll tell you the reason. Now the use case is that we have to share all the records which by owned by users with role professor to the users with role admin manager, right? So it is based on the owner. So that's the reason we have to select this particular option based on record owner. Fine. Now the step 3 is that we have to select which records need to be shared. Now we have to select what are the case records that needs to be shared. So basically in our use case, it's based on the role, the owner's role. If it is professor, we have to share it with the role, which is admin manager. So first we have to select which case record should be shortlisted, and then we have to tell the Salesforce to which set of users these records should be shared with. And yes, we do also have several other options like public groups, roles and internal subordinates, roles, internal and portal subordinates. Again, this particular option is related to the experience site. So we won't be covering this option in this video, but we can cover the remaining options in this video itself. And also we can configure the access level, whether it is read only or read write. In our scenario, it is read only, so I'm just leaving as it is. So before hitting on save, I just wanted to show you how it is reflecting currently. So I have logged in as a professor. You can see this professor user is owning two records, and for information, this user is having role as professor. And in the other browser, I have logged in as the admin manager, who is having the role as admin manager. Currently, this user is not having access to any of the case records. Fine. Now let me just go back as a system admin view. Let me save the rule. So it might take some time to calculate the rule behind the scene. So that's fine. Let me just click on OK. Now let me just check whether the rule has been calculated or not. A sharing rule operation is in progress. Okay. And for your information, we can also recalculate the rule if in case the rule was failed or something like that. We have an option to recalculate manually as well. Okay. Yes, the calculation was completed successfully. Let me go back to this admin manager view and hard refresh once. And yes, here you can see this admin manager gained access to the case records which are owned by the users where role is professor. Now let's do one thing. Let me just change one of its owner, like here in the professor view. Let me change one of the case owner to someone else. Let me just change it to myself. Okay. Now going back to the Brave browser, let me just hard refresh. Yeah, now you can see the admin manager is having access to only one case record because currently only one case record is owned by the user where role is professor. Now, one important consideration that I want you to keep in mind is that sharing rule automatically grant additional access to related record. For example, opportunity, contact, or case sharing rule give role or group members access to the account associated with the child record. So currently, we just gave access to the case record to this particular admin manager, right? Using the sharing rule. But you can see this user gained access to the contact record as well. So you have to keep this in your mind when you're writing sharing rules. Awesome. Now, one another consideration that I want you to remember is that currently we just gave read-only access, right, for the admin manager. Now, let's say as admin manager, I'm trying to edit this particular record. Let's say I'm changing the priority and I'm clicking on save. And here you can see the user is getting error. Okay. Now, let's say I'm writing the same sharing rule with access as read write. Now, which permission do you think will the admin manager will be having? Let's test them out. So let me just create one another. Let me try cloning this. Okay, there is no clone option. Let me just create one new sharing rule. And yes, I just gave the same permission as like we just created now, but case access I am giving it as read write. Okay, let me just save the rule. Okay, here you can see the access got overridden based on the condition. So I just gave the same condition, right? Salesforce was like, I'm overriding the existing condition. This concludes that if multiple sharing rules give a user different level of access to the record, the user gets the most permissive access level. So which grants more access, right? That's the permission the user will be gaining. Okay. And one last consideration that I wanted you to remember is that here in our use case, we just share it with the admin manager. But remember, in the case object, we can't disable the grant access using role hierarchy, right? So with that permission, operation head users will also gain access to the records which admin manager is accessing. Awesome. So now the next option which we are seeing here is that roles and internal subordinates. What does that internal subordinate mean? So here in this role hierarchy, for admin manager, the internal subordinate is front desk staff. For operation head, the internal subordinate is admin manager as well as the front desk staff. And if you take vice chancellor, the internal subordinate is all of these roles. So if you wanted to share the records not only to the specific role, but also to its subordinates, you can choose this particular option, which is roles and internal subordinates, instead of choosing roles alone. Now, what is the use of this particular option, public group? Public group is a separate concept. It is very easy to understand. So as like we are having WhatsApp group and all, right? So similarly, we can create a group in Salesforce as well. So let's say I am creating one public group. And here you can select the list of members that you can add it to the specific group. You can select the roles and internal subordinate as like we seen over there, or else you can select individual users as well. If you are selecting role as the option over here, all the users under that specific role will gain access, right? But let's say your requirement is like specific set of users, irrespective of their roles, should gain access, then you might create one public group, add the respective users, and you can give access to that specific group itself. Okay. I can't cover all this scenario in this video itself, but I will be leaving some use case for you to practice. Okay. Now let's move on to the next rule type, which is based on criteria. Now let's take up a scenario. Student records where eligible for scholarship is true should be accessible by users in scholarship handling team. So this is the use case. Now the criteria is like it's not any owner based criteria. It is based on certain condition, right? So that is what we are going to create now. So before that, I have to create one public group. Let me just navigate to the public groups. I am creating one public group with the same name, which is there in the use case. And let's say I am adding the admin manager user itself. So I am adding the admin manager user, fine, and I'm clicking on save. Now we successfully created one public group and we added the admin manager in this particular public group. Okay, now let's create one sharing rule for the student object. Let me search for student, and here it is. Let me create one new sharing rule, and let me just name it as a public group name itself. And here, instead of selecting the based on record owner, I'm selecting based on criteria. Okay. And here you will be seeing the list of fields under the student object. In our use case, it is scholarship. So I have already created one particular checkbox with name as scholarship. Here it is, and which is equals to true. So these records should be shared with this particular public group. Okay. And the access level, let it be read only, and I'm clicking on save. Okay. Let me just refresh the screen to check whether the process is completed or not. And yes, it is completed. And here you can see as admin manager, now I'm seeing only one student record. Now let me just hard refresh it. And yes, you can see that this particular admin manager user gained access to all the student record where scholarship is true, along with the student which he already having access to, because this student was owned by that user itself. And now I believe that you'd have gotten a basic understanding how sharing rule works and what is the difference between criteria based sharing and owner based sharing. And these are the key consideration that I want you to keep in mind before creating sharing rule. And to get the list of complete consideration, check out this particular link. And I do also prepared certain interview questions that can be asked under this particular topic. Evaluate yourself by answering to these questions. I'm pretty sure that you can answer all of this question if you have watched this complete video without skipping in between. And I do also prepared certain use case for you to practice for this particular topic. Make sure to practice these use cases before jumping on to the next video. And I'll be leaving this particular use case and the PPT link in the description for you to check out. In next video, we can learn about what is manual sharing, which is the fourth level in record level security. And yes, that's it for this video. See you next video. Thank you. Bye bye.